everyone. I am here in the AWS studio at Mobile World Congress 2025. And we're here with leaders from Proximus Group that are going to share their vision on the future of digital communication globally. So let me start with kicking it off. My name is Catherine, and I'm part of the AWS sales team. And I would like to introduce you to our panel that we have here from Proximus Group today. So let's do a round of introductions. Christophe, let's kick it off with you.
Thanks, Catherine, for having me. So Christophe Van de Weyer, I am the Chief Product Officer from Proximus Global and also CEO of Telesign. I lead a fantastic team that has a vision to become the digital communication leader globally. My responsibility is really to shape the product portfolio, roadmap, and go-to-market of that product portfolio.
Thank you for that. So let's move to you, Gordana. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Catherine. My name is Gordana Djankovic. I'm a Vice President of AI and Data Science coming from Telesign. And in Proximus Global, I'm in charge of all the digital identity, AI and data science-driven products from the R&D perspective. I joined Telesign as the first data scientist almost 10 years ago. And there are two things actually I'm the most proud of in my career during the past decade. One thing is the fact that I'm inventor of the intelligence, which is our real-time AI-driven fraud detection solution. And another one is the fact that I built the whole data science and data engineering teams from scratch. And today I'm running the whole data R&D department, which is in charge to hold the loop from idea to prototype to production when it comes to AI-driven and data-driven products.
So we're very honored to have you here as a guest in our studio.
Thank you again.
I'll pass it to you, Ievgan. You're not the first time here. This is your second time with us in the studio. So please, if you can introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everybody, hello Catherine, and nice to be here in 2025, similar like we did in 2024. I'm Ievgan Martsin, part of the Proximus Global in the team of Christophe in the CPO organization, and I'm helping the organization to adopt the new technologies in a fast way and support the go-to-market activities for our variety of product houses together with AWS.
So, we heard it already. We heard the several separate brands, BIX, Telesign. Yourself, you were MD. You're an MD now for Telesign. Let's go back in time. I mean, you were operating as separate brands for Proximus. And overnight, in the last year, you did a full transformation to launch Proximus Global. Can you tell us what was announced in December and what that means from a business perspective for your customers and for the world?
Yeah, so indeed, Proximus Group has actually a domestic business and a global international business. That global business actually consists of three entities historically: BIX, Telesign, and Route Mobile. Now, actually, we are really one global organization, one integrated organization, structured around three key pillars. One pillar is the connect pillar, which is about connecting networks across the globe on roaming, signaling, IPX, and others. We basically 50% of the roaming traffic is on our network. Another example is 150 million IoT devices are connected by us.
So that's the BIX portfolio.
That's the traditional BIX portfolio. Yeah. It's the connect pillar. The second one is protect. This is about fraud protection for operators, the firewalling business on one hand, and then also fraud protection for enterprises. And that offers solutions across the digital journey for digital identity and fraud protection around the digital identity. So when you're creating an account, making changes to an account, or doing an e-commerce transaction, we verify that it's actually you that are doing that transaction or that change.
And then you have the Route Mobile side?
We shouldn't talk anymore like that, but indeed we have the Engage, which is the CPaaS business, which is really enterprises communicating with users. And they communicate via WhatsApp, via SMS, and we have up to 7 channels, really where we help enterprises communicate with their users in a trusted, secure way.
So thank you for that. So why now? Why, I mean, these entities were operating independently. Why did you decide now to, you know, group it and merge the entities, which is, I can imagine, a massive organizational shift. Why now?
Because there is more value in being close together and integrated together. Why is that? It's because actually the 3 of us in one Proximus Global organization, we cover the entire stack. From really the connectivity layer or the network layer up to the API layer with the messaging and communication APIs, up to the application layer with contact center as a service, our campaign management. So really the stack completely covered by the 3 of us. Then secondly, we are really addressing the core needs of digital communication of today in terms of ensuring it is done in a trusted way, ensuring that enterprises can communicate with their users, and basically ensuring global connectivity. So really addressing the core needs of the industry today. And there are also advantages, very concrete. So if you allow me, I can give a few examples what the power is of that. Because we have the connectivity layer or the connect layer.
Which is global.
Which is global. We have unique insights to combat fraud, which helps us in the protect solutions. Or, for example, the fact that we are indeed on that connect layer, we can make sure that messages with CPaaS or with communications are delivered at the best quality, at the best cost.
Because you have the network side.
Exactly. And then finally we are a global operation, so which is bringing obviously also cost advantages. We look at ourselves on a global footprint, and this means that we are more competitive and can offer our partners, including AWS, actually the best value proposition.
So you are trying to combine the different product portfolios and create what I would say a spillover effect. Is that the network effect or the flywheel effect?
The flywheel effect, exactly, because the businesses are reinforcing each other.
Yeah, because each of these products complement each other.
Correct.
AWS has been working in the separate entities for a long time. I mean, some of them are built on AWS native, others are using partners, and so forth. 2 weeks ago, just before Mobile World Congress, you made a big announcement to the market on our strategic engagement with you. Could you give us some highlights?
Well, we have been working obviously together already for quite some time, but now we really stepped up our partnership and our collaboration because we see really cloud and Gen AI as really the future and harnessing basically the strength of that to become a really truly global business. There are a couple of areas where the partnership is built upon. The first one is really using AWS cloud as a way and to scale up and unify our business and our platforms. That's one. The second one is really adopting Amazon Bedrock and Gen AI technology. We have been using it already on our chatbot, but we want to use it really across our portfolio. And the third area is really the AWS marketplace and partner network. We have some presence, but we want to really expand that and expand our offering on the marketplace.
Yeah, we're very grateful to be doing this with you, and obviously think long term and also think very innovative to help you shape your future. Now, last year we zoomed in on the network side and the innovations there, and we launched local roaming breakout at the time. This year, we want to zoom in a little bit more on specifically the Protect portfolio. And Gordana, you were pretty much cornerstone in building all these capabilities. Can you walk us through where it got started and what were some of the challenges that you had to address in that whole, from where you'd started to where you are today?
Yes, definitely. In general, everything started maybe even a few decades ago when the whole activity and interaction between the individuals and businesses have been enabled and fully empowered in the online space. And this is how the fraud also penetrated the online space along with the individual contributors and businesses. And at that time, I would say that Telesign was already positioned as a mature contributor and a leader in the one-time password, two-factor authentication, phone-based verification space. And that was a very strong first response and a very steady solution to prevent as much fraud as possible happening in the online space.
This is what we still have today.
Exactly. This is what we still have today, and I think that this is something that is definitely necessary as one of the steps in the verification process. I would say a decade ago, when I joined Telesign already had a huge volumes of data generated by that verification traffic. And at the same time, customers started providing a response that fraudsters are finding a way to actually pass the verification process, to complete the verification process, and that there is a need to start thinking beyond. And at that stage, verification has become necessary, but not sufficient way to prevent and detect fraud. And I think that was an ideal timing for a data scientist to join, because on one side, company had a huge volumes of the data, which contain a lot of valuable information. And on the other side, science is offering us a robust tools to extract and classify that information to be able to detect the fraud more precisely. And this is how the whole idea about intelligence has been born, and here we are today.
So you went from that early stage where businesses came online, individuals came online, to now today. I mean, and I can imagine that the parameters that you had to work with back then were far less sophisticated than what you have to deal today, but you've been in the AI business for probably 10 years then.
Yes, that's correct. Actually, in 2016, when the idea has been born, we actually developed everything from idea to prototype to production during that year. But that was a solution suitable only for a couple of specific online and onboarding related fraud types, and also aimed for just a couple of customers. So we can label that solution as a custom solution. But it was good enough for like a 1 year of investment and return that we got from that solution. In 2017, we actually managed to scale up that solution and to make it globally available for all the customers and for the broad spectrum of onboarding fraud cases. And this is how the whole growth of intelligence started. We started also thinking beyond what we've been doing till then, because at the beginning, everything was phone-based and phone-related, and that was the core business of Telesign when I joined the company. But as the whole online space evolved, fraudsters evolved as well, and the fraud types and behaviors and activities evolved as well. And we had to think beyond the phone numbers. We had to start exploring IP addresses, email addresses, and a lot of other relevant data points to be able to better detect fraud. And we also had to invest in data sources which we didn't have in-house, to expand the data portfolio that we have, to think about third-party vendors, about data partnerships, about different types of data that customers can provide in addition to what we had, to better prevent fraud. And this is how the whole story evolved from 2018 till today. Initial version of intelligence was also on-premises hosted. I mean, that was a good enough solution at that time. When we talk about the data volumes in 2016, that was a very steady solution. That was also a broadly accepted standard from the company's perspective for all other products. And also that was the space where all the data that Telesign owned at that time was sitting. So from that perspective, it was a good enough technology solution. But after the whole evolution that we survived in terms of expanding the traffic volumes, expanding the customer's database, going beyond what we have in-house, going beyond the phone numbers. We had to start thinking how we can scale up the whole ecosystem and how we can actually migrate everything towards cloud.
So why AWS?
Maybe we can also mention the volumes of the traffic.
Right.
And where we started in 2016 in terms of the data feeding intelligence and the traffic volume that has been served by intelligence versus where we are today to better understand why we've been thinking about cloud and why AWS is a great match for what we need. Initially, we started with just couple of thousands of transactions feeding intelligence. Everything was verification-based, everything was phone-based, and intelligence served less than 1 million transactions monthly to provide a real-time fraud assessment of every transaction. We had less than 100 features feeding intelligence at that time, and the complexity of the models itself were significantly lower because the fraud types were not so complex as they are today. When we talk about what's happening today, we have billions of transactions digested by intelligence from SMS, voice, and data business. We have phone-based features, IP-based features, email-based features, and a bunch of external data sources enriching our in-house data to be able to proactively and accurately detect the fraud happening in the network. The model's complexity increased significantly with all the patterns that we have to detect from various data sources, and today we are serving more than 350 million transactions monthly, providing the risk assessment in real time.
Wow, that's very impressive.
And that's one of the major reasons why we actually started exploring different opportunities on the market and different vendors that could provide us a broad range of services, that could provide us a global and scalable infrastructure, that can provide us also a regional residency aspect, because that has become very popular lately, and also to provide us a machine learning workflows so we can support all the solutions that we are building for the fraud detection purposes. And I would say native AWS cloud solution, along with all other partners AWS collaborates with and partners which are actually building on AWS, came to us as, I would say, perfect match after that exploration.
Thank you. So it was all about scaling and making sure that basically you could handle the volume, but also the operational model. In all these different parameters that you had to manage. Now, when I think of protect, I also think of trust. And you mentioned it, you work with a lot of data. Where is the balance between, privacy and leveraging data?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And data privacy, I would say, is one of the major inputs when we think about the design of our data products and AI products, including intelligence. I would say when we start with the data architecture, there are two major angles we are thinking about. One is obviously data science, and another one is data privacy. Data science always wants to get as much data as possible to produce as accurate as possible solutions. And then we have a data privacy on the top of that to actually drive that architecture to comply with all the data regulations globally, to keep the data in a secured way in terms of hashing, anonymizing, encrypting, to establish the retention policies and the timing, how long do we want to keep the data, to keep only the data that is proven to be valuable for the business, to manage the access rights, and also to think about that data localization and data residency if this is something that is required by the customers or by the regulations.
So you have already done all the frameworks around building that responsible AI, the privacy part, the localization of the data. That's also, I assume, a great segue to enter in GenAI territory. How do you look at GenAI to shape the future of your product?
Now we are talking about what we are doing today and what is happening in the near future. But we also need, I totally agree, we also need to think about the long-term future and what do we want to build on the top of what we are doing today. And I think that we are setting the baseline very nicely with the things that we are currently doing with the whole scaling, taking care about the data residency. But when it comes to Gen AI, obviously Gen AI is everywhere and Gen AI is taking over. And we are also thinking how we can complement what we are doing today with all the Gen AI capabilities in two different segments. One would be how we can scale the internal processes. And another one would be how we can build externally on the top of what we are doing today.
That's super exciting. Now, I want to go to the final part of our announcement. Ievgan, you lead the go-to-market and that part of our partnership. Can you give us a bit of a flavor of what we are doing there and where it came from and where you're going with this?
I think it's important to emphasize that we have a very classical partnership approach, and it's like a stairs. So we started a couple of years back with the AWS Direct Connect product, and I was back in time as a product manager to build, let's say, standard requirements to become a partner with AWS. There was no such type of discussions like we have right now or any strategic type of things. It was really tactical things, 1, 2, 3, 4, done, right? And that led us to basically grow the business. We made our next steps with the IoT offering or a SIM for Things offering that we've added into the marketplace and to the partnership relationships. And of course, it was an experimentation for us as well, right? So there were many, many lessons learned. Throughout the last year, we obviously brought that to a completely different level. So like you mentioned in the beginning with Christophe, there was a couple of weeks back a strategic partnership that is clearly outlining our focus for the next years to come on a much more larger scale of what the things that we are trying to do, and some of the things like what Gordana was mentioning about the DI and Phone ID. We also, I want to emphasize one of the important steps as part of it is the reach of the ISVA status that we have received last year. And this is clearly giving us much more broader opportunities to cross-work together with the AWS as the company and get much better results from this type of environment.
That's very exciting. Now, let's wrap it up. To conclude, I just want to give you folks a quick round of what comes next. What's your final thought before we wrap up the session?
Well, from a product perspective, our priorities is really to scale and ensure global coverage. At the same time, launching key innovations.
Yeah.
Like with the telco API is also here a very important topic. Improve the customer experience by really having a unified portal of our complete product portfolio towards the customer. And then, of course, guaranteeing data privacy and consent. So consent management is another key topic for the future for us.
Thank you. Gordana, some final thought?
Yeah, there are a couple of things I would like to see being fully in production and ready. One thing is related to what we are doing with AWS and actually having all the customers transacting on the cloud-native platform. Another one would be to see that we are monetizing the data residency that we enabled beginning of this year in production. And the last one would be to see the data science proven value coming from Gen AI for a couple of POCs we are doing this year.
Thank you. Ievgan, what would you like to see next year here?
Next year, I want to see much more offerings that we have in the plan already, right? So the one that we're just talking about, the Phone ID that will become as an offering for the private offers for the customers hosted at AWS, and also other offerings that we intend to add as part of other product houses. And I want to see really the transactions over there that are gonna basically be a confirmation to us of the success that we're trying to do together.
So thank you very much for your partnership, and we will work together a lot on all of these important topics. Thank you, and with this we conclude the Fireside Chat.